Thank you guys for coming to listen to my research data and findings. And what I chose to research was increasing oral reading fluency by utilizing repeated readings. So when I started, I was kind of just looking for a strategy to increase oral reading fluency. And as I read on, I really learned and figured out that I wanted to really hone down on one specific strategy, which was repeated readings. So we have my problem statement. Oral reading fluency, ORF, is vital for a reader in developing accuracy and comprehension when reading. In order for a reader to understand what they are reading, they must first be able to read fluently, which we all know as first grade teachers is very important. Meaning that ORF can help bridge the gap between reading, word recognition, and comprehension. Sorry guys. Struggling readers will always be present within elementary classrooms, but it is vital for us as educators to better understand and have the appropriate tools and strategies to support these students in becoming fluent, confident readers. So here was my question. Will the use of repeated readings effectively enhance oral reading fluency for first grade students? I was able to pull a lot of important information and research into my literature review, which was very helpful when finishing the rest of my paper. But there are so many articles that I could discuss that I found about oral reading fluency, but here are just some key takeaways that I found. So oral reading fluency has three main components: accuracy, automaticity, and prosody. Students who do not become proficient in their oral reading fluency will often have a difficult time understanding what they are reading. We know that students who are not proficient tend to stop on words and overthink that, not comprehending what they're reading because they're having to go back and reread multiple times. There's a multitude of forms of fluency instruction that can take place in the classroom. However, repeated readings seem to be the most efficient throughout the research that I read. So that's kind of why I decided to really stick with that one thing and go with it. And then choral reading is when a group of students read a passage out loud at the same time and pace, and this can be done in conjunction with repeated readings. So we had choral readings in conjunction with repeated readings for this study. My study design was conducted over a total of 6 weeks, and the participants chosen were 6 first grade students who fell below the cut score, so below grade level, on their iReady reading diagnostic for winter. The students met in a small group once a day for 6 weeks to complete the research study, and students were predicted to enhance oral reading fluency by 10 words per minute throughout the 6-week time period. So that was my kind of hypothesis that would happen, what I predicted of them. So week 1, students were given a pretest, and this pretest was a timed fluency passage, just the passages that we normally give throughout each week as we teach a new phonetic skill. But they had a goal of 30 words correct per minute. So that was their goal for the first passage. And what I noticed after giving this pretest is that a lot of students in this group did not reach that 30 word per minute goal. Weeks 2 through 5, we started repeated readings. So students read the same passage throughout the first 4 days of each week. And then on day 5, students were given a new passage to read as many words as possible in 1 minute, where I recorded words correct per minute and accuracy. And this day 5 passage also had the same phonetic skills as the day 1 through 4 passage. I observed student prosody throughout the week and recorded it in a journal to see if that was something that increased as fluency increased, because a lot of my sources from my literature review talked about how important prosody was within those components of oral reading fluency. And then week 6, students were given a post-test. Post-test was very similar to the pre-test, except this time the students had a goal of 40 words per minute. So here was my data, pre-test versus post-test. So you can see each student started at a lower number. We have student 1 starting at 28 and went up to 40 by the end, and their accuracy bumped up from 96 to 100, 23 words to 39, 94 to 98% accuracy. Student 3 started with 30 words, bumped up to 40, went from 97 to 98% accuracy. All 3 of these students, 4, 5, and 6, went from 98, 96, 98, all up to 100% accuracy. So they're reading accurately, which is wonderful. And they're going from 27 words to 41 30 to 45, and 30 to 44. So each student was able to progress from that pre-test to that post-test. But the interesting part to me was each student did not necessarily progress throughout each passage reading through the week. So let's look at that. So student 1, we can see, is going from 29 to 30, 35, 37, back down to 36, up to 40. And then accuracy also kind of, stumbled. It didn't stay, going up or going down. It just kind of moved around. 96 to 96, up to 100, back to 97, but then ending at 100. Same happened over here. I'll give you all a minute to look at that, but you can tell that this student's accuracy was also kind of all over the place. However, their words correct per minute continued to increase throughout these 6 weeks. Words correct per minute for student 3 continued to increase throughout the 6 weeks as well. And it also continued to increase for student 4, except for that week 6. They went down 2 words. And then finally, student 5 and student 6. Student 5's words correct per minute continued to increase throughout the week, as well as student 6. And student 6's accuracy started at 96, went back down to 94, up to 100. Accuracy, that's like kind of another question that I feel like I have outside of this research that I'd be interested to see how that accuracy bumps around so much. But overall, student 1, the student showed an increase of 12 words correct per minute at the end of the 6 weeks. The student also consistently increased accuracy as well. Accuracy for the student increased by 4%. Student 2 showed an increase of 16 words per minute with an increase of 4% accuracy. Student 3 had 10 words correct per minute of an increase and an increase of accuracy by 1%. Student 4 had an increase of 14 correct words per minute and accuracy by 2%. Student 5 had 15 correct words per minute increase and accuracy by 4. And then student 6 had 14 correct per minute with an accuracy increase by 2%. And this is from pre to post, so not including that in-between data. That was for me to observe and monitor and see how they were growing. Data findings continued. So overall, most students showed improvement in their oral reading fluency. Woo! Student 2 showed the greatest increase in words correct per minute with an increase of 16 words. And student 3 showed the lowest with an increase of only 10 words. Students 1, 2, and 5 showed the greatest increase in fluency with an increase of 4%. In addition, students 3 showed the lowest increase in accuracy with an increase of only 1%. So student accuracy was inconsistent for all students and varied depending on the passage that was read. However, an increase in all students' word correct per minute and accuracy demonstrates that students were enhancing their oral reading fluency. So the reason that finding an effective strategy to enhance student oral reading fluency is necessary is because of the close relationship between fluency and comprehension. We all know they leave us in first grade, they go to second grade where they really, buckle down on comprehension, and a lot of those students who are not fluent don't have the confidence or the skills to be able to do that work in second grade. Fluency bridges the gap between word recognition and comprehension, and it's vital for us as educators to have effective tools and strategies to support students' fluency knowledge. The results from the study provide educators with valuable information on how repeated reading can be used as an effective strategy to enhance oral